So the mystery day of Warhammer Fest is revealed in full, a new edition of Age of Sigmar, and some swanky new Stormcast. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're going over the 6th and final day of Warhammer Fest, and none other than Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. I can't say I'm enormously surprised by the reveal, though I was thinking that there were a fair few possibilities for what they might be doing on this mystery day. At some point they're going to be announcing the culmination of all of their investment in these animation projects they've been doing, and they have also mentioned that at some point there's going to be an old world version of Age of Sigmar set back in the standard Warhammer Fantasy universe, so at some point that's going to be the launch of a brand new game system. In any case, we can put all speculation down. It is the 3rd edition of Age of Sigmar, and quite a lot of interesting hints as to what's going to come in it. Here's a quick breakdown of the news from their stream. Basically, there's a 3rd edition of Age of Sigmar on the way, and they've revealed the cover art for the books and a few rules leaks, 3 new Stormcast Eternal models in a brand new chamber, Vindicators, Annihilators, and a new character with wings, and also some slightly cryptic hints as to a mysterious antagonist that I'm sure will be against them in the launch box. Otherwise, they did drop in a few other bits of news. As there aren't any live conventions or meeting up in person, there's no Golden Demon this year, so that'll return in 2022. And they mentioned there's going to be a new official Warhammer Age of Sigmar and 40k tournament circuit coming to the USA. It sounds like they'll have big events at several different cities, culminating in a final event in Los Angeles. Quite cool to see Games Workshop dipping their toe in competitive events once more. I'll certainly be interested to see what comes of that. In any case, let's get back to the main news, and of course we're now into the 3rd edition of Age of Sigmar, releasing at the end of this Broken Realms series, and very much falling in pattern for how Games Workshop tends to do things with Age of Sigmar and 40k these days. It seems like they have a couple of phases when they redo an edition. First of all, the new release comes out and a bunch of new miniatures drop. Then they gradually cycle through a fair few of the codexes or army books. Then they have some sort of campaign, whether it's Psychic Awakening, the End Times, Broken Realms, or whatever else, and then they regenerate everything with a brand new edition. With this new AoS edition we don't have all that many details yet. Apparently much of the new lore and action will be set in Gur, the realm of beasts, and that certainly fits in well with Kragnos, the new god of earthquakes that they awoke on Monday, and it certainly implies more releases for Destruction as a faction. As always, when they redo editions there's going to be a lot of rules changes, and there'll likely be a new starter box. I'm sure with Games Workshop's success with Indomitus the previous year, they'll be trying to do something similar with Age of Sigmar. I'd expect something pretty hefty with the rulebook in it, with some really nice new miniatures. I'm sure Games Workshop will be trying to go after those record sales again with Age of Sigmar. They revealed 3 new miniatures in the preview, the first of which is a new character for the Stormcast Eternals, Indrasta the Celestial Spear. Supposedly she's really quite a high-ranking character in the Stormcast Eternals, on a similar sort of level to Celestant Prime. Apparently her thing is all about hunting monsters, which kind of seems appropriate for setting it in Gur. She'd probably get on quite well with the new Orc Beast Snaggers from 40k. I think that as centerpiece models go, it's really quite an impressive one. A pretty good balance with some massive angelic wings, and really quite sleek and practical looking armour, and of course a massive dangerous looking spear. I'm sure that'll bring down some foes far above her size. Apparently she'll be quite flexible rules wise, can be fielded in any Stormcast host, and perhaps like several of the Stormcast has become a bit eroded in personality from reforging a lot of times. Very single-minded in purpose, and perhaps a little bit blood-crazed and battle-mad. Next up we have a new set of Stormcast line infantry. These guys are the Vindicators, Stormcast with massive spears and shields, and really quite nice miniatures all in all, quite sleek and balanced miniatures compared with some of the slightly squatter Stormcast of before. I think these will go down pretty well. Apparently they're part of a new Thunderstrike host in the lore. Supposedly Be'lakor has been making things difficult for the Stormcast, shrouding the realm of Azir in shadow and preventing the fallen warriors from getting back to reforge. Apparently this new Thunderstrike pattern armour is somewhat resistant to that, piercing through the shadows, and meaning that these guys can afford to be in the vanguard and not quite as protective against battle losses compared with some of the other classes. It seems that these guys are going to be part of a new chamber for the Stormcast Eternals, along with the Annihilators, which we'll get onto in a second. Here are those Vindicators, painted in a few of the different schemes. Looks like they have a fair few different poses. I'm not sure if these will be monopose or not. It seems likely that in any sort of release box they usually do tend to go for monopose miniatures these days. Still, nice to have a bit of a preview about how they might look in the various different Stormhost schemes. The last big new model preview were these Annihilators, a bit more of a heavily armoured Stormcast, apparently equivalent to Paladins. These guys look absolutely imposing with an enormous shield and a meteoric hammer. Looks pretty perfect for smashing the foes of Order to me. And there's quite a few more ornate little details on the model. They've got a bit of a leonine chestplate going on, and as they mentioned in the stream, they've got a twin-tailed comment on the head of his hammer, which will probably have the nice effect of pounding the logo of Order into virtually anything that he hits. That rune shield looks ridiculously sturdy as well. This guy really does just seem like an immovable object that isn't going to go anywhere fast, even if he's attacked by something quite fearsome. They did mention a few rules for this guy. He's going to have a 2+ save, one of the more durable Stormcast Eternals comparatively. He'll be dealing some mortal wounds on the charge, and you also get some hefty damage from the hammer. Of course, I'm no rules expert in Age of Sigmar, but looks really quite interesting. Very elite, probably going to be relatively points intensive comparatively. Leaving new models behind, they did mention a couple of rules changes in an interview with the designers. Like the initial 40k announcement, this has been kept really quite vague. There were a few clarifications though. You can still get double turns in Age of Sigmar, though now there might be a bit more of a choice to go with whether or not you choose to go first or second. If you go second, you will get the reward of extra command points compared with going first. Could be an interesting shake-up to the turn structure and actually make it a bit more of a trade-off. Everything else was at least fairly vague. They did make a quick allusion to War Scroll battalions though, and apparently the aim there is for a bit more balance between the factions. Try not to make it so that lots of them have quite a lot of support and options, whereas some are kind of left in the dust. If 9th edition 40k is anything to go about, I'm sure there'll be fairly extensive rules rewrites throughout every phase, with new points cost rebalancing for every unit in the game, really meaning that anything could be good or bad after the changes. They showed off a couple of pieces of art as well. The one on the left is going to be the new rulebook cover. It has Mrs. Indrasta plunging towards a sea of chaos beasties, very much being a Stormcast Eternal there with the lightning coursing through her. I think they're really trying to represent what Age of Sigmar is about. Stormcast Eternals descending on high to try and cleanse chaos from the mortal realms. There was one other piece of artwork from the book as well. Not really too clear what's going on here, but it looks like the forces of Order on the rise with that shrine arising from the darkness. A little bit of the flavor text in the article that they released states that life magic is getting a bit stronger throughout the realms, and maybe that's in some sort of relation to this. Finally, last but not least, they had a bit of a teaser trailer for some of the bad guys in the new edition. Generally, when Games Workshop releases one of the new editions of their big new games, they seem to like to do a fair few new releases for one of the main factions, either Stormcast in Age of Sigmar or Space Marines in 40k, and this might be a bit of a hint as to the main antagonist in the new edition of Age of Sigmar. They had a little animation of some of the forces of Order clustered around a campfire, and talking about soldiers going to the bogs, mires and fens, and disturbingly not coming back. The teaser text at the end said a new breed of evil is coming to Age of Sigmar, and you can see all of those red eyes in the dark there. Really not too clear as to what's going to be going on with this, possibly an entirely new race for the game, though I suspect it's likely going to be in some way related to the existent factions. Just because of red eyes in the dark makes me think that it might be something like a new variety of Skaven. AoS does seem to be quite strong in reimagining the existent factions from Warhammer Fantasy and putting different takes on them. Maybe it could be some sort of bog or marsh related Skaven, rising up from the darkness to take on the forces of Order. For all we know though, it could be those weird tentacle things that we're seeing on the cover art. This will be interesting to see what exactly comes out of it. So anyway, that seems to be about it for the Age of Sigmar New Edition reveals. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I know that I mainly talk about 40k, but it's certainly interesting to see Games Workshop go through the whole New Edition process for Age of Sigmar, and see the strange sort of distorted mirror of 9th edition as it comes out. Overall, I feel that Games Workshop have delivered pretty well on Warhammer Fest so far, and I've quite enjoyed their online previews. I believe it's something like 6 new kits for 40k, 3 new books, plenty for the specialist games and Black Library releases, and then really quite big news for Age of Sigmar between the New Edition and Kragnos Rising. I hope that they keep up with managing to do sort of online streams at the same time as they do releases in events, as I have quite enjoyed the format while they've been forced to do it during the pandemic seasons. In any case, if you'd like to see more Games Workshop reveals and previews, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I do tend to be a lot more 40k focused generally, though I have quite enjoyed doing a little bit of Age of Sigmar stuff during Warhammer Fest. Finally, if you'd like to help support the channel, I would just like to mention that I do have an Element Games affiliate link which is down in the video description below. Element Games being a discount retailer based in the UK, giving 10 to 20% off Warhammer products. If you give their link a click and order anything through them, a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics, and it doesn't cost you any more extra on anything that you buy. Can just be a way to help support the channel if you'd like to help out. If you live in the USA or Canada, there is also an Amazon link as well. That works in a very similar way. If you click it and order anything through them whatsoever, a small amount goes to help support the channel and doesn't cost you any more. Can just be a way to help out on things that you might have bought anyway. In any case, a really big thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.